Welcome to Games Grown Up, where we take a look at game releases from 18 years ago. Nerds, rejoice! This month we have both orcs and Jedi, plus a ton more. Hi, I'm your host Adam Scott, and today we welcome to adulthood the game releases from December 2004.
Your fate has been written. You will die.
One fate, 1 million ways to defy it. Prince of Persia, warrior within.
What would you do if you could turn back time? Well, if you were the prince, you'd probably go on a killing spree. Prince of Persia, Warrior Within is the fifth main installment in the Prince of Persia series, and the sequel to 2003's Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. Set 7 years later, the story follows the prince as he searches for a way to stop an entity called the Dahaka. The gameplay in Warrior Within builds upon its predecessor in a number of ways, with new combat options like the ability to dual-wield weapons, as well as steal and throw enemy weapons. The prince now has a slew of gory finisher moves too. In addition to the rewind, slow-mo, and speed-up powers from Sands of Time, the prince can now send a wave of sand to blast his enemies away. The biggest change is a shift to a much darker tone throughout. The prince is much more of a brooding character, the story almost seems hopeless, and the combat is much more brutal. Prince of Persia: Warrior Within was generally well received by critics who praised the improved combat, level design, story, and soundtrack, which is great by the way, but were more mixed on the radical shift in tone from the much more lighthearted predecessor. Why go back 4 seconds when you can go back 4,000 years? Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic 2: The Sith Lords is not only a mouthful to say, but is also an awesome RPG developed by the legendary RPG studio Obsidian Entertainment. They're most known for Pillars of Eternity and Fallout New Vegas. This was the sequel to Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic, developed by BioWare, another huge RPG studio known for Mass Effect and Dragon Age. Like its predecessor, it's set in the Star Wars universe 4,000 years before the events of the groundbreaking film Episode 1: The Phantom Menace.
He's embarrassing.
The story takes place 5 years after the events of the first game and follows a Jedi Knight who was exiled from the Jedi Order. This was a massive RPG, with a universe to explore, 30 new force powers to gain, and tons of side activities to get lost in. The story is shaped by your decisions, and when you want your fist to do the talking, there are a variety of melee and ranged weapons to use. The game's critical reception upon release was generally positive, noting strong story, character, and writing, which were more gray than the original, with particular praise given to the character Kriya, with GameSpy naming her the best video game character of 2005.
Yes, and what are they without the Force?
It was also included in the book 1001 Video Games You Must Play Before You Die. However, the game received criticism for being too similar to the first game, in terms of graphics and gameplay systems, as well as being launched in an incomplete state. A mobile version was released in 2020, and an updated version for Switch released in 2022. From a galaxy far, far away to Middle-earth.
In this moment, when all hope had faded.
Lord of the Rings: The Battle for Middle-earth is a real-time strategy game developed by EA Los Angeles for PC, based on Peter Jackson's film trilogy, complete with clips from the movies and a number of actors from the movies voicing their roles in the game. In typical RTS fashion, you gather resources, build bases, and strengthen your armies, all with the goal of outmaneuvering your enemies, who are doing the same thing. The development environment was turbulent, with what has been described as extreme crunch time. While this isn't unusual for EA, it did lead to a high-profile labor lawsuit that was settled by EA for just shy of $15 million. Even with a rocky development, the game was a commercial success with a very positive critical reception, with the positives focused on the visual flair and impressive audio, but criticized for a lack of depth in the gameplay. Now, it was nominated for Best Strategy Game by both PC Gamer and XPlay.
I was ecstatic.
No, not that X-Play.
But we turn now from talking cats to talking trees. Ents, I mean.
Yes, that X-Play, but was ultimately beat out by Rome Total War. The official game servers went offline in 2010 after EA lost the license. However, you could still play it online using unofficial game servers.
Frodo set forth on a perilous journey to the land of Mordor to destroy the ring.
Good licensed games are so hard to find, but we have another one this month with the Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay.
You cannot escape your destiny.
I can escape anything.
This first-person action and stealth game was developed by Starbreeze Studios and published by Vivendi Universal. The story is a prequel to the Vin Diesel movie Pitch Black. He reprises his role as the anti-hero Riddick as he attempts to escape from a maximum security prison called Butcher Bay. It was a smart design choice to differentiate itself from the Riddick films. This provided freedom to design the story they wanted rather than being too tied to the movies, which often limits licensed games. The game's influences include the film Escape from Alcatraz and games such as Half-Life and Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell. Escape from Butcher Bay received acclaim by critics who praised the graphics, stealth gameplay, and action-adventure elements. However, they criticized its short length and lack of multiplayer. Over the years, the game has developed a cult following and is considered by many to be one of the greatest video games ever made. It went on to win a ton of awards too, including the Editor's Choice Award from IGN, GameSpot, and GameSpy. In 2009, a visually enhanced version of the game was included in the Chronicles of Riddick Assault on Dark Athena for PC, Xbox 360, and PS3. This is the version I played, and I could definitely see why the fans have been so passionate over the years.
Just tell me what you want, Riddick, and I'll make it happen.
I wanted to be left alone.
Passion can be a powerful thing. Dokutsu Monogatari spent all of his free time over 5 years developing his passion project, Cave Story, which was inspired by the 2D games from his youth, such as Metroid and Castlevania. The fast-paced gameplay of Cave Story revolves around, quote, a robot who wakes up suffering amnesia and who must explore and blast his way through cavernous areas in order to figure out his backstory and escape the cave. In Metroidvania fashion, you'll gain access to new areas as you power up your weapons by collecting triangular experience crystals and solving various platforming puzzles. After its initial self-published release, the game slowly gained popularity on the internet. It received widespread critical acclaim for many polished aspects of its design, such as its compelling characters, setting, story, and gameplay. Cave Story is considered by many as the quintessential indie game because of its one-person development team and influence on the video gaming world. There's been a number of ports and releases over the years too. In 2010, Cave Story released on WiiWare and DSiWare. In 2011, an enhanced version, Cave Story Plus, was released for Steam, and Cave Story 3D was released for the 3DS, and the Switch got its own version in 2017. Okay, let's take a look at all of the games released in December 2004. What is your favorite game that released this month? You know, if I had to pick one, I'd say Kuon. That's a survival horror game that flew under so many people's radar, but it really came out in that heyday of survival horror games. If you like this trip down memory lane, hit the like button and subscribe. Now, if you want even more games that released 18 years ago, check out Games Grown Up for November 2004. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.